along that journey, in wanting to do more property, I actually met my now business partner in property, Addy, and he had a company at the time which was called MPE, which was Making Property Easy. So I went to MPE to one of their seminars with regards to buying more property. And I was introduced to it by my cousin because he was working with Addy or for Addy. And we got into a conversation and I said, this is what I want to do. So I started to pick up some properties with Addy. And then he said to me, why don't you work alongside us on procuring properties? Because I was actually already doing that. I was telling friends about properties. I was showing friends how to get properties. And I was going to him for more properties. So that was what we were doing. We were going around, we were, looking for good properties to buy for our own personal portfolios, but also properties that would be good purchases for other people who wanted to get into property. And really, that was, gosh, how many years ago was that now? That was probably around 2005, 2006. So it was all around the same time. And from there, we've just kind of solidified our working relationship and just gone on to continue to build our portfolios. It was only more recently that I thought to myself, how do we give back? People are coming to us in the community, Addy's community. Even though we're of the Afro-Caribbean community, I actually like to refer to it as the African Caribbean community because they're two different communities, but they've come together as one. Now, the African community were not the Windrush generation because they didn't come from the Caribbean as in the British Empire colonies. They came from Africa and they came over to work, but they weren't from the colonies. The Windrush generation were invited here to work to help build up the industry, and they came from the Caribbean. So initially, there were two separate communities, but eventually they merged together as one kind of Afro-Caribbean community. But the backstories are very different. One coming directly from Africa, one coming from Africa into the Caribbean via the slavery system, and then now into the West to work for the empires. And in the mother countries is what we called England, the mother country. So a lot of our community still don't have financial roots in this country. Because obviously we've only been in this country for the last 50 or 60 years. The Windrush generation started to come in the 50s, in droves, I'm talking about. And so we haven't really got deep financial roots in this country yet, and it's something that we still need to build as a community. And so I went to Addy and just, sort of said to him, look, you're consulting, I'm consulting, we're helping people. Why don't we look to do this on a bigger scale in terms of, really teaching people how to create wealth, how to hold wealth through property, and how to leave a legacy for their children, but in a tax efficient way, how to build their portfolio, not just based on their salary, because a lot of people still believe the myth that they can't buy a house unless their salary can support it. They don't realize that the buy-to-let is actually based on the rental income that that property will make and whether the lender will lend to you or not. So there's we're not taught this in school, and you don't know what you don't know. So we found ourselves just educating people, but without any real formal structure. So I said to Addy, look, why don't we look at one of these companies, property education companies that are offering courses and teaching people, and see if we can partner with them to bring that to our community, so that we can kind of build it up and help our community to be self-sustainable. And so basically, that is what we have done. We have gone to a leading property coaching company and become qualified coaches there, and but also very much to serve our community. And I think it's worth saying that our community is still very fearful about. They're fearful about spending their money. They're fearful about debt, but I think it's around. It's brought about by a lack of knowledge. And for me, there's nothing greater than being able to teach them about how they can create their own wealth and to kind of obliterate those fears and those myths that are actually kind of based on nothing. I think what's also really important for me and what I'm really passionate about is creating that wealth within our community. I think what I've found in coaching is that a lot of it is centered around going out and getting investment and getting investment monies, because there's a lot of wealth out there. And without networking and putting yourself in those environments and in those positions, you don't realize the wealth that is out there that you can actually access. And in our community, we don't really have, like I say, the wealth steeped back for centuries. So we're very much still building. However, our parents did come here, especially that Windrush generation era, and those that are of African parentage, they did come here and they did buy homes. And those homes are now being inherited by us, the second generation Windrush. So we have an onus on us to now take that and build it, create more wealth, leave a legacy for our children, so that we can become self-sustainable. I find that it's easier for my Asian counterparts to find wealth in their community, or for my Caucasian counterparts to find wealth within their community. Some of them because they already have lots of inherited properties from parents, grandparents, great-grandparents in the Caucasian community, and going back to ancestry, earls, viscounts, things like that. They have wealth steeped in this country. The Asian community are very business orientated, and so basically they have wealth in their community from those things, and they build each other up. We are still learning to trust each other in our community and thus build each other up. So these are the things that I'm really passionate about. It's about the mindset, it's about the education, and it's about making us self-sustainable, knowing that we can also do this for ourselves. The wealth has been started by our parents from that Windrush generation. We just have to make sure that as Windrush children, or second generation Windrush, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of that Windrush generation, that we don't become a lost generation by not holding on to our wealth.